The search is finally over. The Indianapolis Colts are reportedly going to hire a new head coach, and that man is Shane Steichen. Welcome to the Horseshoe Huddle podcast presented by Fan Nation on SI.com. My name is Andrew Moore, and I'm joined here by my esteemed colleague and fellow co-host of the Horseshoe Huddle podcast, Drake Wally, and the newest member of Horseshoe Huddle, Destin Adams. How you guys doing? We finally got, or there's reports, I should say, nothing official. We all know how that can end up with this Colts team, but it seems like a decision has been made. So Drake, how are you doing, man? And then we'll move. We'll go on over to Destin and get his reaction of what's going on.
Man, I'm doing great. Woke up this morning. I was just like a typical Super Bowl Sunday, but I saw the news and a lot of stress. I feel like it just left my body. So I'm very happy, and I'm sure Destin is as well.
I mean, I don't know if the stress will ever leave my body as we cover this Colts team. The stress just comes with it. But it is good to just have a face, have a name. No more who is it, no more when will it be announced. I mean, maybe I'm just like speaking a little too fast on it. The McDaniel situation seemed so unique that I'm just acting as if the hire's done. I mean, knock on wood, call it whatever we want to call it. If the Colts got to have that happen to them twice and a quarterback retire on them like they did in that time span, then we're just the most unlucky franchise in the history of sports.
Absolutely. And it was perfect that, of course, we're all thinking, hey, the Colts aren't going to really release this or talk about it until after the Super Bowl. And of course, midday of Super Bowl Sunday, we get the Adam Schefter notifications. But the chat is already going nuts here. Hey, we've got Cody Felger at Krispy Kreme. OMG, look at that sexy man on the top right. Hey, that's an interesting name there. And then we've got Dustin Nelson. These NFL scripts are so predictable. The Eagles win the Super Bowl and the Colts hired their offensive coordinator again. Very true. We had talked about that. I mean, hey, depending on which side of the aisle you are on Frank Reich, some are really happy about that. Others are like John says garbage hire. So there's some interesting thoughts going around. Stats Matt, you actually made it. Stats Matt said he was going to a Super Bowl party, said I'm here for a few. At least you could join us here. I know it's kind of late notice that we're doing this, but hey, we appreciate anybody that's watching us live, even if you're not watching us live. We really appreciate it. But before we dive in, go ahead and give us a follow on all the things. Go ahead and like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook, follow Horseshoe Huddle on Twitter at Colts on FN, subscribe to Horseshoe Huddle on YouTube, and hit that little bell so you know when Drake and I are going live, and you know when Destin and Rashad McGinnis, another new member of Horseshoe Huddle, are going live with their Saddle Up podcast. So we're a bunch of different things are happening at Horseshoe Huddle, but we're not talking about ourselves today. Let's talk about the big news at hand. So as Adam Schefter reported this morning that the Colts are targeting to hire offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles, Shane Steichen, as their next head coach. The deal has not been signed yet because obviously the Colts cannot talk to Steichen again until after the Super Bowl tonight, until the season is over for the Eagles. But the thought is that Steichen within probably tomorrow, I would say, is going to sign his contract with the Indianapolis Colts to officially be their new head coach. So, Drake, as we do on every time there's breaking news, give me your gut reaction. What were you thinking when this news popped up on your phone this morning?
Well, first off, I was a little bit sad when I heard about Callahan. So I was thinking, well, what are they going to do now? Like you immediately get, a little bit of PTSD from past years, as we were discussing. But I think it's a great fit. I think that he understands how to develop multiple skill sets at quarterback. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's done it all, and he's been with just about every type of QB you can have. I think that he's a great fit for running backs, especially with the Jackson, Moss, Taylor committee that the Colts do have. Look, the Colts were not that far off. Okay. I really don't think they were. I think that if you just had good direction and not a bunch of chaos happening, it's a lot different. And I think he's going to maximize that like he has with Scott, with Gainwell, and with Sanders. And I also think the receivers are likely going to get an uptick in targets, production, and just efficiency overall. So I personally I think it's a great hire.
Now, Destin, when I busy this morning, but you had been kind of talking about this on Twitter about the various options of Morris and Steichen. Do you think that this is a home for the Colts? I know it's hard to predict when there's so many other variables that are going in, but considering all the drama that we have witnessed with this organization for a while now, what do you think this says about not only the Colts but or other can the Colts at this time?
Yeah, I mean, the timing of it was strange. I mean, I've talked about it for a few weeks. I'm sure a lot of people have. The NFL has this like unwritten rule that Super Bowl weekend is like a no touchy, like no touch it. Um, and that's usually with personnel moves, that's with hires, that's with just about anything. Like they want that weekend to be focused on the big game, focused on all those marketing pushes. So you don't see this very often. I think, I mean, so Stephen Holder from ESPN, he put out a little bit of a thread earlier. So I would push people to go look at that. I think he painted it pretty well. The Colts wanted to do the right thing, kind of let people, once they made that decision internally, they wanted to let those know that they were not getting the job as soon as possible. So they heard it from them, not from Twitter. I think a lot of people have seen over the years certain things get spoiled by a lot of these different insiders. And the Colts wanted to get ahead of that. I think they knew that a part of that risk is when you're letting, I mean, they decided to bring 8 people to round 2. So when you're letting that many people know that they didn't get the job, you're up in the tick that certain things will get out. So I think that has a lot to do with the timing aspect of it. From what I've heard, though, the last 3 days, it kind of just seemed like an internal battle with the Colts of about 3, 4 names that they were really considering. And it seemed like a really good push that it was going to be one of 2 guys down the stretch. If I had to go ahead and put my name to something, like I think Raheem Morris ends up coming in second in this battle for the Colts head coaching position. I think he was a really great candidate. I think I was pretty outspoken that he was my favorite of the candidates listed with all the experience he had. Shane Steichen was second, was the number one of the offensive guys that they were going. I know you guys were Callahan guys, but I think the thing that set Steichen apart from Callahan for me was just the extensive amount of experience that he's had. I mean, he's been in the NFL coaching only with 2 teams, with the Chargers, San Diego at the time,
Mhm.
then with the Los Angeles Chargers, then with the Philadelphia Eagles. So 2 teams from 2011. So about 12 years of NFL experience now. That's a good jump. You got to see him go through it the right way. I know there was a certain candidate in the Colts hiring process that didn't think it was necessary to go through the coaching ladder. But Steichen's done it, man. Steichen started out. He actually started out as a defensive assistant coach. I don't know if many
Mhm.
people know that listening. Started out there, moved to the offensive side of the ball pretty quick in 2013, where he was also with the Cleveland Browns, who I didn't mention earlier. So 3 teams total. Um, Steichen has a lot of experience, man. I'm excited to see where that goes, and I'm excited to see the staff he forms because of it.
Right, right. And as Raul wants to know, forget the Steichen signing. Has the Destin to Horseshoe Huddle signing been made official? It has. It
Officially,
has.
officially, yeah.
Officially official. So
Ink
we
to
we got
paper.
we got Destin, we got Shad. It's going to be a good time here on Horseshoe Huddle. Taryn says, getting pumped already for the future. The draft is going to be huge. And who's the quarterback pairing? There's a lot of it's a lot of fascinating things that you could put with the top 4 quarterbacks, especially. And I think every single one of those really fits well with Steichen. And we'll dive into that here in future episodes. Rich, good to see you, buddy. Hope Steichen can re-energize this terrible offense. Anthony Richardson, anyone? Enjoy the Super Bowl, guys. Appreciate it, Rich. I know we got Drake all over the Anthony Richardson hype train and a lot of other people. Stats Matt said that I've seen people mad that it wasn't Eric Bieniemy. And I don't think Eric Bieniemy was, he was considered a candidate, but I don't really know if he was actually that big of a finalist in my opinion. Jelani Woods, as Patrick says, Jelani Woods is going to have a massive season next year with Steichen calling the plays. It is going to be interesting to see what happens with these various pieces on the Colts offense. Whether it is Jelani Woods, you're kind of talking about what our next category is, since we covered kind of the background of Shane Steichen, is the positives that Shane Steichen is going to bring to this offense. And I think number one, when you look at the Eagles offense, especially this year, they've just been absolutely dominant running the football. And that's something that I know the Colts would love to do, especially when you have such a special talent in Jonathan Taylor back there, Zach Moss with his ability that he showed towards the end of the season of being able to really come on late. Deion Jackson is still there. Don't rule out the Colts drafting a running back late on day 3, possibly. Drake, I know you and I have talked about this privately. What can happen? How do you see Shane Steichen really affecting? We'll start with this Colts offense first, and then later in the episode we'll kind of talk about the whole team. But as far as the offense is concerned, where do you think you will see those changes with Shane Steichen?
Well, I mean, I'll actually start with the offensive line. You've got a guy who has been able to have some serious push, in the hog mollies there, and he understands good blocking. He understands scheming and getting running backs lanes. I mean, as we've discussed, there are literally truck wide lanes, okay, that Miles Sanders and Boston Scott, Gainwell and Hurts, they're all running through them. So he understands offensive line, but I'm going to go right back to it. The quarterbacks. I mean, he's coached pocket passers. He's coached volume passers like Herbert. He's coached runners who did not know how to throw yet. And then as soon as he gets the play calling duties, he's a better passer. So, I mean, this is a guy who knows the quarterback position. Everyone's been talking about rookie quarterback. It doesn't matter if it's Richardson. It doesn't matter if it's Levis, Young, or Stroud. I really think he's going to maximize that skill set, and he is going to help that guy, whoever it is, hit the ground running full speed. So I think that the offensive line, I think that the quarterbacks, those are the two that are going to benefit the most because he just knows how to get running backs open lanes.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be music to Chris Ballard's ears certainly, but we all know, and we've known this since that fateful night, August of 2019, when number 12 hung up his cleats, that it's all about the quarterback, and the quarterback position is just going to be so crucial, and I think this is where Shane Steichen really sets himself apart because of his work with Phillip Rivers in San Diego, with his work with Justin Herbert. And then we've seen what Jalen Hurts has been able to do as well, going from a guy that many thought couldn't even be a legitimate starter in the NFL to finishing second in the MVP voting this season. So Destin, I know you kind of spoke to it earlier. Do you think that was top of mind for the Colts? I mean, we know that they had talked about they wanted to see leadership and they wanted to see someone that could really galvanize the whole team. But do you think that their top priority, or one of their top priorities, was trying to truly find someone that can really work with whoever the Colts draft, their next quarterback of the future for the next 5, 10, 15 years, hopefully?
Yeah, I still think the top priority was that leadership element. I think what they found out and what we all saw in this extensive search was there are a lot of guys across the league who are renowned for their leadership ability. They saw it enough in those 8 guys to bring them on to the second round. I think what set Shane apart from Raheem in those final 2 discussions was that fact that this is an offensive driven league right now. It is a league where the Colts know where they're at. They know they're at pick 4. To quote Chris Ballard, they earned that.
Mm-hmm.
They earned that draft position. So to know where they're at and know what they got to do next, I mean, to know that Shane was the highest commanded offensive minded head coach candidate in this entire process. Once Ben Johnson goes back to the Lions, I mean, it makes it to where Shane is the undeniable hottest name on the market there for a offensive minded coach. So to land that is a big get. And if I had to guess, when it got down to Morris and it got down to Steichen, I think that is the element that they looked at. They saw what has held them back, and they know what Shane can do. And just to touch on what Drake said, I mean, I think the thing with Shane is he has worked with so many guys, like he said. I mean, Herbert, Herbert coming into the league, I think people forget about it because of how well he's done, was a huge question mark. People were I mean, I think Will Levis this year, the hate he gets on Twitter, it reminds me of how much hate Justin Herbert got his year coming
Mhm.
out on Twitter. It really does. Not comparing
Good
the two as
call.
prospects, people. So don't kill me in the comments real quick. No one said Will Levis is the next Justin Herbert, but it just something to be known is that Herbert coming in was not this surefire gonna work prospect. Like he had things he had to work through. So Shane Steichen being a big part of that, a guy who you could be on the lookout for a Colts staff or a Colts reunion, and Pep Hamilton had a lot to do with that. And then now we have the Jalen Hurts situation where we've seen him mold and kind of build an offense that fits his skill set. So I think that's the biggest thing. And to all those people out there that are big Bryce Young, big Anthony Richardson people, this was the best hire for that committee, just because I don't think it's a secret. Chris Ballard is not going to bang the table for Bryce Young. That is not going to be the guy that Chris Ballard looks at and is in love with from day one. But what it would take for that draft pick to happen is your head coach banging the table for that guy. And of any of the guys that were going to do that for someone for Bryce Young, I think Shane Steichen is that guy that right now you look at it and you're like, man, I think he could work with all four, but Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, those two make a lot more sense now than they did yesterday.
Right. They really do. And then Taryn asked, no chance they go for Carr, right? Surely they'll draft. Yes, there is no chance that Derek Carr will be a member of the Indianapolis Colts next year. You can kind of count on that. Patrick says Philip Rivers had a G6 take the wheel tramp stamp. I don't know about that, Patrick, but that's an interesting one. Maria saying I'm very happy he was my second choice. I think a lot of people had Shane Steichen up the list on their candidates list for this job. As Freddie says, great news for my Colts. Quentin says very happy for our Colts. And then we have Aaron here. Let's go Colts. Hopefully the ink gets dry. So a lot of Colts fans that I've seen today are very happy with this combination. But I want to get back to the quarterbacks for just a second here, and I do think that this helps the Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson case for the Colts moving forward. I think that you have a guy that has proven that he can win with a quarterback like, I wouldn't say that's exactly like that, but kind of in the same realm. A guy that can move and create with his legs outside the pocket, a guy that can really create yardage down the field. We've all seen the highlights of Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young at this point. But I don't want Colts fans to think just because they got Steichen that it's automatically going to be Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson. The Colts are still going to do their due diligence on all these guys, and they're going to think that, well, Bryce Young is still going to be fairly small, and we know Chris Ballard, he's all about guys with those traits, and it's very hard still to see him pulling the trigger on a quarterback if Bryce Young comes in under 6 foot and under 200 pounds. It's going to be very tough for me to see him doing that. Maybe he does if Bryce Young absolutely blows them away. And then there's the Anthony Richardson argument that he only started 13 games in college, and he's going to need some work in the NFL before he's ready to run a pro offense. You could see maybe the CJ Stroud. Yes, we saw him dominate against Georgia and maybe answer a lot of those questions, but does he not have the type of ceiling that some of the other guys do? With Will Levis, you see all the physical traits are there, but is there some worry that he could turn into Carson Wentz 2.0? So each one of these quarterbacks has question marks around them. There's no Andrew Luck in this class. And that's what's going to be fun over these next few months, is us debating what's going to happen, really diving into these prospects and seeing which one fits best with the Colts. But what I think is best for is good for the Colts in terms of finding which quarterback is the way Shane Steichen really uses his offense. And there's a great article by Connor Orr of Sports Illustrated who really dove into this a couple months ago, and I linked it in my piece about Shane Steichen today, about how Steichen takes what his quarterback is best with, molds that to their strengths, and then also meshes it with what the opposing defense struggles with, and you end up with this really spectacular game plan. So being able to take a scheme like Shane Steichen's, and being able to really mold it to the quarterback instead of the quarterback having to mold to the scheme is super important. And I think it's why Shane Steichen has been so successful with a variety of different style of quarterbacks, from Phillip Rivers to Jalen Hurts.
Well, and he's also had to make a point that Destin made about Justin Herbert is Herbert was so raw. They wanted him to sit behind Tyrod Taylor. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so he kind of got thrust into this
Their
role.
medical staff had other plans, though.
Their medical staff had other plans. That's right. They didn't. They were like, no, this guy's not a future. This guy's not the future of the franchise. But seriously, like this is a guy who developed a guy like Justin Herbert into a star, and they did not think he was ready. And then he turns around and he helps Jalen Hurts get his passing mechanics correct. Hello, Anthony Richardson, anybody, Bryce Young. I mean, maybe he helps Bryce Young able to navigate the pocket a little bit better with his size. Maybe he can help Anthony Richardson and, get better with those passing mechanics. Or if it's Stroud or Levis, he can help them, as we said earlier, hit the ground running. He just knows what to do with a quarterback and how to improve those holes in a quarterback's skill set. And it's just huge for that.
Wyatt Law coming out here and saying Steichen and Hooker. That would be an interesting combination. I already have a bet with Wyatt Law that the Colts will not be taking Hendon Hooker in the draft, and we've got a drink at 7-Eleven on it, so I'm going to hold you to that, Wyatt. But Dustin, what? Yeah, it is, absolutely. What do you think about all this? I mean, with all these different quarterbacks, and they're also the various styles are also different as well. Do you think that really the Colts, that Steichen's going to be able to really mold his offense, like I was saying, around each one of them? And then as of let's see, what's the date? February 12th. Who would you like to see as the quarterback in Shane Steichen's offense week 1 this season?
Yeah, I mean, I really do think he can mold an offense around any of them, like you said. I think the way to just show you that is, I mean, Jalen Hurts was as raw and so many questions as you could get. And they're in the Super Bowl year 2 of the Shane Steichen experience at offensive coordinator, and Nick Sirianni. I don't want to take anything away from what Sirianni has done in Philadelphia, by the way. It has not been just Steichen, but the big part of this is Nick Sirianni has taken on a lot of the head coach responsibilities, and he's allowed his coordinators to run their departments. So Shane Steichen has been running the offensive meetings. He has been running the offensive play calling, and things like that. So the fact that they're in the Super Bowl in year 2 with all those questions with Jalen Hurts, that tells me everything I need to know. And then when it comes to on February 12th, who I'd like to see, I mean, from now until draft day, the guy that would be my preference is still CJ Stroud. I think I see the most logical world where CJ Stroud is successful for a long time in this out of these top 4. I am not one of those guys that hates any of these 4, though. Like, of these top 4 guys in the class, I see realistic roads where any of those 4 can be franchise quarterbacks. And I think that's probably why I'm one of the guys that's not as much team trade up. Just because I just think all 4 of these guys can go. But I'll go a little step further. If I had to rank the 4 with Steichen right now, I would go Stroud at 1, I would go Young at 2, I would go Richardson at 3, and I would go Levis at 4.
Man, it looks like
Ooh.
Destin and I are on the same exact page there. That's the exact ranking that I was going to have. And again, I right now I'm deep diving into all these guys on the film, and right now I'm loving what I'm seeing from CJ Stroud. I really am, and it just seems like right now he's the quarterback that I think Chris Ballard would love to have. He's certainly going to impress in the interviews. He's going to be a guy that I think is going to do very well with Brian Decker and his assessment of him. And I think the Colts are going to be very impressed with Stroud. If I had to put money on it right now, it's probably going to be either Stroud or Levis that the Colts take in this draft. But again, all of that could change. We're still 2.5 months away from the NFL draft, and a lot can change. Freddie says, let's hope they keep JT. I don't think Jonathan Taylor is going anywhere. I really don't see them making a big move to get away from their starting quarterback. But let's get a couple more here before we go to any more, kind of talk about the concerns we might have with Shane Steichen. So let's see here. Well, real quick from Dizzy McGee, we're in for a masterpiece tonight, and it's exciting to see what ideals we'll bring to the NFL next season. Have the talent, and we just need someone like Steichen to implement it correctly. And I think it is an exciting time for the Colts. But again, it's they still got to go out there and prove it. So Destin, I know you got to go here pretty soon, and I'll hear from you, and then we'll go to Drake. What concerns do you have with Shane Steichen as he enters into his first time as being a head coach for the Colts?
Yeah, I guess my biggest concern right now is how he's going to is he going to be like Nick Sirianni as a head coach, where he wants to put an offensive staff in place and that is who he's going to let run the offense. It does seem like he wants to be the guy running the offense himself. So we've seen guys do that well. There, Andy Reid is one of the best coaches of all time for a reason, and he's well known for being the head honcho in that offensive department, even though he's the head coach still. So it'll be interesting to see like how he wants to balance that, because we've seen people do it well, we've seen people not do it well, and who's right beside you, even though you're an offensive minded head coach, matters. I mean, we saw it with Frank Reich. Frank Reich, when Nick Sirianni was here, he had that guy who pushed Frank Reich. He pushed him every single day in the office, would push back on things he disagreed with. He went with it. And then once Nick Sirianni left, they promoted from within. Marcus Brady comes in. Marcus Brady was a lot more agreeing with Frank Reich on just about every move he had, and Frank didn't have that voice on his shoulder to push him to do things every single day and to be better and to improve the offense. So it'll just be all about how he handles that. And if the offense is successful, you got to expect that there'll be some poaching going on. So how he's going to divvy it around that, how he's going to handle those situations is always the questions for a first-time head coach. But I mean, for right now, I think Colts Nation just should be excited. Like I said earlier, this was the hottest name on the offensive market in an offensive-minded league. So to get that after this season of craziness, and where every single national media member you would look to would talk about how dysfunctional this team was, how the outlook around the league on the Colts was worrisome, to not only get the best name on the market for the offensive side of the ball, but to get it from a guy who is currently at the head coach, who people believed wholeheartedly that hates the Colts right now for what happened with Frank Reich. I think this kind of dispels a lot of that in the NFL right now, the Colts have been a functional organization. They have been an organization that is well respected. And I think this move and being able to land Steichen kind of shows that that respect is still there across the league, and that last year is more of an outlier in the function department, not the story.
That was I agree 100%, because like I was saying this earlier, is that I think that with what Irsay did this year, or well, this most recent season, last season, that's not typically how he even operates. And so letting Ballard, yesterday he said, look, I told everyone, Ballard, you make the choice. Okay, Ballard made the choice, and I think it's been that way the whole time. And it shows that I think Jim Irsay understands that this can't happen again, and it was a very interesting year. I do think that I had mentioned this with someone else, that it would be interesting to see who he brings in as an offensive coordinator and how much responsibility does he give over, because he saw what happened when Nick Sirianni delegated those duties. Everything changed. Perhaps he just says, look, we'll talk about it, but I'm going to let you handle the offensive duties. Of course, I'll be the filter and whatnot, but I think Steichen's going to put a guy he truly trusts in there as the offensive coordinator. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I, for one, am so excited to see what he's going to do with that running back committee. That's going to be awesome to see them finally hitting on all cylinders again. I'm right there with Destin. Colts fans should be excited. This is a good hire. This is a good direction to go, especially when you got a rare situation of a quarterback and a new coach. Not a lot of teams have to do that. For this situation, it's great to get the first step out of the way, and that's the coach. And now you can just focus on the draft and the combine.
Right. I agree. So, Destin, we know you out of here. Go to your Super Bowl party. We appreciate you jumping on. Everybody, if you haven't already, you definitely should. Go ahead and give Destin a follow. I'm going to throw it up there at the Destin Adams. Go ahead and give him a follow. The newest member of Horseshoe Huddle. Him and Shad's show, Saddle Up, is going to be right here on the Horseshoe Huddle channel. So you guys want to make sure you're subscribed to that so you can watch our show along with their show to get all of your weekly Colts content. But Destin, we really appreciate you jumping on, and enjoy the Super Bowl, brother.
Appreciate it. Last comments, everybody. Make sure you're blowing up the Houston fan base with how much we love Chris Strasser and how much he deserves that job in Houston. I am willing to help Chris pack his bags even and get him a ride to the airport just so he has a fond memory of his time in Indianapolis, and he gets to stay in the AFC South, hopefully. So we'll be so excited to see him go to Houston. But thanks for having me, guys. Have fun, everybody. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Stay safe out there, anyone that goes out.
Absolutely.
Thanks, man.
We appreciate it, Destin. That's Destin Adams, everybody, from the newest member of the Horseshoe Huddle Brigade. So, and he'll be on some more shows. Shot will be on some shows. We'll get Jake and Zach back on here. But let's into it, Drake. We still got a lot of people in the comments want to give their opinion on this. Matthew asks a very interesting question. Guys, who is going to be targeted for his staff? I want to answer you, Matthew, but we're going to do an episode later this week about that. But for now, I will direct you to go to horseshoehuddle.com. Our colleague Zach Hicks just put out an article about a potential staff or what type of staff that Shane Steichen could want. Some guys as for the offensive coordinator could be former offensive coordinator for the Colts, Pep Hamilton, Kevin Patullo, who was with the Colts from 2018 through 2020. There's some interesting names as far as bringing on maybe for the offensive line coach. But as far as the defense and special teams, I see that staying mostly the same. Gus Bradley worked with Gus Bradley worked with Shane Steichen back when the two were in Los Angeles with the Chargers. So there's a familiarity there. We already know some candidates wanted to keep Gus Bradley and the defensive staff on there, and I would assume that Shane Steichen was at the top of that list.
Well, and that was what got everybody to the whole argument that there's 4 finalists left, is because you could tell that not only did the Colts, I felt like truly the Colts wanted to keep both of them in the exact spots that they're in. But man, that's a great position to be in when you just have to worry mostly about the line and the offense, which you know both things very well. You don't even have to worry about defense. You've got a solid coordinator in Bradley, who really lifted a defense that just could not, unfortunately, do it all, but played very well. And then you've got Bubba Ventrone, which look. 2 things. Number one, the special teams just continues to get better. They had the best returner as far as I believe yards per kick return or punt return, Dallas Flowers. And this guy's going to be a future head coach. So it's a great staff to be able to come, or it's a great position for Steichen to be able to walk into with 2 very important positions just already cemented, done. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, Freddie's got a good question too. Why did they wait until the day of the Super Bowl to announce this? So I want to get in front of this. The Colts didn't announce it. This didn't come from the Colts.
Yeah.
What it did come from is Adam Schefter of ESPN. He's the one that reported it. There were other outlets that reported it after him as well, including us here at Horseshoe Huddle. But it wasn't the Colts that formally announced it. What the Colts did is the Colts were informing the other finalists for the job that they weren't going to be the ones that the Colts were going for, and there's a couple reasons for that. It's so that these coordinators. So that way they don't learn through social media, the candidates. That would be a pretty poor way to find out if you find out through social media before the team. And then another reason for that is these guys need to know what their future is going to be like. The teams that employ these guys currently also need to make plans for their future staff. So it's a courtesy to let those finalists know. And when you're letting 14 different finalists know that they're not going to have the job, it's bound to get out, and that's why it was broke the way it did. Nathan asks, when are pro days? Pro days are all scattered throughout March and April. Yep. So you'll kind of see that. Wyatt Law, another good question. Could Steichen bring the Philly offensive line coach with him? Strausser seems headed to Houston, which I'm happy about. I don't think they'll bring the offensive line coach for the Philadelphia Eagles, because he just signed an extension with the Eagles.
He stays. Yeah.
But the assistant offensive line coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, he could very well be someone that the Colts target. And that is Ron, I'm going to butcher his name, Rod Istvan, Istvan, the Eagles assistant offensive line coach. He could be in line to come to Indy if Shane Steichen wants to bring him.
Well, look, and anybody that is associated with the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, That's fine. Bring him, whoever. It does not matter. That is an offensive line that has punished every single team they play. It seems like they couldn't run the ball at the start of the year, and that all changed when Steichen took over. So again, this is a guy who understands offensive line. I don't think you should worry about the offensive line coach. He's going to find the right guy for that and the offensive coordinator. I think this is a good position for him to be in because he doesn't have to clean house completely. He's going to bring in something that he knows very well. But man, that would be a good hire as that assistant offensive line coach.
The cupboard is not bare, Drake. It definitely is not, especially when you can keep your whole defensive staff and the special teams staff. Quentin says, I'm also happy that Saturday is not the head coach. I think everybody is happy that Saturday will no longer be the head coach. My beautiful wife is saying hello again, but again, she's got that ugly crying face of me at our wedding. So there you go, guys. There you go. I'll throw it up there. Make my wife happy. Happy wife, happy life. But before we're already at 35 minutes. Let's
awesome.
Get out of here and let's get the good people off to their Super Bowl parties. I'm going to shout out Chad because Chad is one of the most loyal listeners that we've got. But Drake, before we get out of here, one final question: what is your overall feel of the Indianapolis Colts right now?
I actually put relief, happiness, eagerness. I do think that this is a very good time. This is a good day. It's a great day. All right. It's a good day for the Super Bowl, but it's a good day for Colts fans too. And, there's going to be a lot of developments. So just stay tuned, stick with us. We are going to have everything that you need right here. But at the end of the day, relaxed. I feel relaxed, and it hasn't happened in a month. So
Right. Christopher Moore asked, do you think Saturday could be a good offensive line coach? I think he could be. Only thing is, Jeff Saturday does not want to be an offensive line coach. He wants to be a head coach, and that's it. So that's on Saturday at this point. But Drake, I think we can all say that Colts fans feel a little bit relieved right now because Indianapolis, with going through what they've been through throughout last season from November on, or even before that, when Jamersey was meddling, and for them to come up with such an extensive search, it lasting till literally mid-February, like Chris Ballard said it might, and for them to come away with one of the best candidates out there on the market and possibly the best offensive candidate on the market to pair with a young quarterback that they will be drafting very high in this class. I think it feels like there's adults back in the room. It feels like there's a return to normalcy for the Indianapolis Colts, and hopefully nothing goes awry and we come back tomorrow night talking about how we have a second coach that spurned the Colts. But I really think that the Colts hit this out of the park hiring Shane Steichen. He is going to bring a different energy to this locker room. I think he's going to hold players accountable. His work with quarterbacks is second to none, and I think the Colts really did get a good one. This is the best possible situation for the Indianapolis Colts. But again, it's one decision out of the many decisions the Colts will make in their most important offseason in 25 years. You got the head coach, but now it's time to go get the quarterback. And we will be here to discuss it all with you. Really appreciate everybody coming and joining us today, hanging out on Super Bowl Sunday. It was a last-minute show. We told you we were going to be here live the day that the news broke. And at Super Bowl Sunday, we don't sleep. We're still going to bring it to you. So again, please, as it scrolls down at the bottom of the screen, if you're new here, if you're following Destin and Shot over to Horseshoe Huddle, welcome. Go ahead and follow all of the things for Horseshoe Huddle. Go ahead and like on Facebook at Horseshoe Huddle. Go ahead and follow at Colts on FN on Twitter. Subscribe to the YouTube and hit that bell so you know whenever Drake and I are going live, whenever Destin and Shot are going live, because the offseason really has only just begun for the Indianapolis Colts. So before we get out of here, Drake, what are some of the things that you've been working on and have posted on the site so people can go check those out?
Well, I mean, it's a little different now. It doesn't have as much relevancy, but I had Leonard's provided support for Saturday. I know Saturday's out of the race now, but maybe Leonard might have some kind of a disagreement. Who knows at this point? He was very vocal about how much he supported Saturday. And then I do think that there are two Colts, Ngakoue and Okereke, whose fate could be decided by Gus Bradley staying or not. I think that he's staying, but we're just going to have to see how that turns out.
Wyatt Law saying that Philly 33, Kansas City 31 tonight with Steichen. The announcement on Tuesday. We'll have to see what happens for Wyatt Law's prediction.
Got to support the next guy, right?
Right, exactly. But hey, before
hammer
we
that
leave,
money line.
Exactly. I'm gonna give a shout out to the people in the chat. Dizzy saying great stream. We appreciate you following along. Wyatt Law as always. Taryn, Chad, Freddie, Stats Matt, R Gibb. Good to see you. Looks like you, the lovely Destin. Looks like a friend of Destin's here. Quentin, Matthew, Nathan. All of you guys, Rich, all of you guys just absolutely killed it today. We really appreciate it. Again, go ahead and follow D. Walster Drake on Twitter for Drake. If you want to look at some of my stuff on Horseshoe Huddle, I got a piece out there detailing all about the Steichen hire, all about his past, what the Colts really loved about Steichen. So go ahead and check that out. That is live on Horseshoe Huddle right now. You can follow me at Andrew Moore NFL, and Drake and I will be back tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern, our normal time, to talk some more Colts football and more Shane Steichen with you all. So until then, enjoy the Super Bowl, eat a chicken wing, enjoy an adult beverage if you're 21, as Drake is right now, and enjoy one of the greatest days in America, Super Bowl Sunday. So until tomorrow night, have a good one.